Hi, I'm the Moorlander and this is Moorlander EDC. It's time to do a bit of a catch up on this, which is the Suunto Core version 2 or the Core 2. Now what I want to do today is this, so this is a follow-up. I think it was about 3, maybe 4 weeks ago, I did an unboxing of this. So if you haven't seen that, I definitely recommend looking at that because I go into some of the menus and some of the options on there a little bit deeper than I will in this. What I want to do with this one is I just want to circle back round to kind of concentrate more on the differences between the two of these and some of the findings that I've done whilst having this on for the last 3 or 4 weeks. Now, just a quick update to this. So this is the Suunto Core 2. The Suunto Core has been out for about 20 years or so now and is a well-loved military outdoor style watch for quite a few reasons. It's got a nice large display on here. It's very robust, and also the fact on the back of here, if you need to, you could replace the battery. The battery on this lasts for roughly 12 months. The battery on this one lasts for roughly 15 months. So if you're after a longer battery, then this might be a better solution for you. As far as the size, damn it, dropped it. As far as the size is concerned, if you're used to wearing the Suunto Core, you'll be immediately at home with the Suunto Core 2. The face of this comes in at 49mm by 49mm and is 14 point something millimeters deep. Pretty much identical to the original one. Pound for pound, they weigh roughly the same. I think there is a little bit of a difference between the two of them, but when you've got them in your hand, you really don't notice that much at all. The display on these is pretty much the same. If you struggled to read the Core, then you're probably going to struggle to read this one. If it was one of the things that I wish that they'd spent more on, I think that they should have updated the display on this. Now, I will say though, it is a little bit easier to read on this, and that comes down to the glass on here. So the glass on the original Core, this was a mineral crystal display or mineral crystal glass. On the Core 2, this uses a Gorilla Glass, which is a toughened, hardened glass that you'll find on things like iPhones and your Samsung Galaxy kind of phones. What that's meant is though, that they've been able to change the geometry of the glass on here. The glass on this one almost seems to have more of a domed effect to it, so it catches the light. But what you'll find with a lot of these is, and I don't know the science behind it, but the top layer is domed and then the inside layer isn't as domed. So you've then got 2 bits for the light to refract off. Whereas with the Core 2, it definitely seems a lot flatter. So there's less light or different ways in which the light coming into this can be refracted. So as far as the display is concerned, they're identical, or they appear to be identical. The difference being is the lens over the display on the Core 2 makes it easier to be able to look at through different examples. Now what you've just been looking at there, what I've tried to do is I've tried to do it with the sun in front of me, and I've tried to do it with the sun behind me, and then I've changed it round different angles. Hopefully it looks a little bit clearer. This one is a little bit easier to see. But again, you still do have a little bit of a struggle at some angles being able to see this. What I really wanted to see, and from the comments of my previous piece of content, is I wanted to see Casio's MIP display on this. It may be similar to Casio's MIP display, but it seems a century behind. It's one of the biggest things that I think is a letdown from the Core 1 to the Core 2. You can see it a little bit better, but it's not where I would prefer this to be. Now on the Core 1 or the Core original, there was an option in the settings if you did you put it into sleep mode, that you could change the contrast on here. I've not been able to find how to do that with this. You might still have the option to be able to do it so that you can increase the contrast ever so slightly. On the Core 1 it was set between 1 to 15, and by default it was on 9, but if you bumped it up to 10 or 11 it did make it easier to be able to see. If you could do that with that, I think it would be great as well. As far as the construction is concerned, with both of these, the main body of the actual watch itself, they seem to be pretty much identical as well. The back of, or the main body of the case is made from a tough resin, and then on the front you have a metal dial on here. They're ever so slightly different in that the Core 2, the metal dial is a little bit more matte colour, whereas on the original Core it was a little bit shinier, had a bit more of an eggshell feel to it, but all in all they're pretty much the same. What I do like to see on the Core 2 is the fact that this now has actual lugs. So on the original, the straps on these were absolutely dog turd. I've had this for a few years, and I think this is my second or third strap on this. I've had it longer than that. Anyway, the straps would break, and also the keepers. I've had to buy some extra keepers off Etsy because they always break. But trying to get a third-party strap for this meant that you had to have these special lug adapters. Because this now has lugs, you can put any strap on here. I believe this is a 22mm lug, so any 22mm strap out there, then you can pretty much put to this. They also, on the back of these straps, have those adapters so that you can pinch it and you can take it off, which makes it so much easier than being able to try and remove these. With these in here, you have to have a flathead screwdriver, which isn't difficult to find, I know, but it's just another item of, another piece of tools that you need to be able to remove these. One of the beauties, as I mentioned, with this is for soldiers, doing whatever they are, wherever they are around the world, is if they wanted to be able to change the battery on the back of here, then they could do, because you just need pretty much any coin and you can take the back off. But when it came to the strap, if the strap was damaged on here, it was nigh on impossible to be able to find a new strap. So being able to update on this has made this so much better. And I do like the strap on here, I will say. So the strap has changed. This was, I can't remember the exact materials, I'll put the exact materials here, but this feels a lot more like the newer straps that you'll find on the newer Garmin watches and the newer Suunto watches as well. You pass it through, you got your lug there, and then you got a little bit that you pop that into at the back. I'm not a huge fan of this bit though. I will be changing this strap, but that's just because there's a strap company, Hawk Rigger, if you know of them here in the UK, they make amazing straps, so that's what's going on this. Now, as I mentioned, with the original Core, you can change the batteries on here. All you need is a coin, push it in, you can undo that, and then you can swap out the battery. The battery in this was a 2032 battery, or is it CR2233? Super easy to find. If you're in the military, if you're around the kind of the pew-pew scene, then you'll pretty much know that any sort of site out there that's got some illumination in it will have a 2032 battery in there. Super easy to find. In fact, most people will have a few spare of them in the kit bag so that they can put them into the sites. It was a real game changer that you could just simply swap the battery out on here and use a fairly easy and common to find battery in order to do that. Baffles me, genuinely baffles me, why Suunto decided to change the back to a screw down back. Now on the back of here you need a Phillips head screw to undo these 4 screws to then be able to take the back off. Now I'm guessing one of the reasons that they did that is that the original Core, this could be, you could swim with this, but it was to 3 atmospheric pressures or 30 meters. With the Core 2, you can now swim to 10 atmospheric pressures or 100 meters. So you're getting some more out of this. But I think they misunderstood why this watch was so useful for soldiers, for people out in the field. Changing the battery was super simple, with a very common battery as well. The battery in this, rather than being the 2032, this is now a 3032 battery, which isn't as common. It just baffles me a little bit on why that they took that away. This is pretty much toolless. You need a coin. This, you now need a tiny little screwdriver to be able to get into here. That's 4 potential screws that you may drop and lose, or that's 4 potential threads that you might cross, which is now going to mean that you can't get this wet whatsoever. I think they misunderstood why this was so popular. I think it's a shame that they've done that with this. Now, with it being a larger battery, this was roughly 12 months battery. This is roughly 15 months battery. So you're getting an extra 3 months out of it. But you've lost some of the ease of being able to change that battery. If you're enjoying the content today and you'd like to support my channel, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button below. If you do choose to do that, I'd like to say a huge thank you and welcome on board into the Moorlander community. Now back to today's content. Now, as far as the functions go, the functions are fairly similar between the two of these. This is an ABC watch, which is an altimeter, barometer and compass. Being able to change between those is very simple. The UI on here is nice and easy. Now, they have changed it from the original one, so if you have the original one and you come to this, it's going to take you a week or two just to get used to it, but it's not particularly difficult. What you have is your light button, you have a back button, you then have up and down, and then this is your mode or kind of your select button. So on the main face on here you have your date, you have your time, and then underneath there as well there are different screens that you can go round to be able to see different things. So you've got things like your seconds on there, you've got your sunrise and sunset, you've got the amount of steps that you've done for the day. Now your steps on this, you can turn that on and off, which I guess if you turn the steps off will probably give you a little bit better battery than having the steps on there. And then you also have your moon phase on here as well, which again, if you're out, maybe you're doing some hunting, or it is that you're in the military and you're concerned about how much light that you're going to be getting that night, then you'll be able to check the moon phase on here. You do a simple click on that mode button and then it then takes you on to your altitude. So with your altitude, you can still press this button down here in the bottom corner and that will give you some different readouts on the bottom. So on this one, you've got your altitude. Sorry about that, there always seems to be a helicopter flying over when it is that I'm talking. And then you've got your temperature on here. The altitude on here, I will say, is fairly similar to the altitude readings on the Suunto Core, and that is that because this isn't a connected watch, this doesn't connect to GPS or anything like that. It goes off the barometric pressure around you. So at sea level, you know that it's a certain level. If you go up 10 meters, the level of the pressure around you will change by whatever the increments in here on. So it knows how high you're going from sea level on the pressure around you. Now that does mean, let's say for example, one of the local places I go to a lot is a place called Hen Cloud. I know that it is exactly 410 meters above sea level. So I can go to Hen Cloud with this. Some days it'll say 406 because it knows roughly how high I am from the pressure. But if there are changing barometric pressures through the day, whether there's storms coming in, whether it's nice and hot, then because those barometric pressures around you will change, it will change on here. So you may find that you can get, and I've done this with this, I've gone to 410 meters, I've set this, and you can set this, so you can set reference points. If you get to a point where you know exactly where it is, set, you're at 410 meters, so that if you then climb up another 100 meters, let's say, then you'll know that you've made that distance, so it helps you to set the accuracy of this. What I will say is though that I went to 410 meters and it went down either side by about 6, sometimes 7, depending on the air pressure around you. So it's more of a gauge, it's more of a I'm at this kind of level. If you're after something that's super specific and knows exactly where you are, then really you're going to need something that's connected to something like GPS. What you can also do in the altimeter mode is that you can set a reference point, but you can also then on here, you can then, with these, you can then set, what do they call it? They call it the altitude difference. So you can set it on here, and then it will tell you, so where you were originally, if you've gone down 10 meters or whether you've gone up 10 meters, it will show that on here. The next mode after that is the air pressure around you, and then using the bottom button on here, you can also change some of the information that's reading on the bottom. So you can have your air pressure here, and then at the bottom you can have your altimeter. So if you've noticed that your air pressure has changed and your altimeter has changed as well, then you can kind of see in your head, well, actually, I know that I've not changed how high or low that I've gone. I've walked on a set path that hasn't changed, but it says on here that I've gone down 3 meters. But then you can see on your air pressure that the air pressure has also raised or lowered. So it's something that you can take into account having both of these together. You can also change that again, and then you'll be able to see the temperature around you as well. Then you have your compass mode. I do like one of the little changes that they've done to the compass mode on this. So with the original Core, one of the downsides is, because of this middle button here, if you're doing press-ups, if you're climbing over things, you'll often hit this button and you'll go into one of the other modes. And you look down, it's like, why is it saying north, northwest or something? But going onto the compass saps your battery that extra little bit longer. So with the compass mode on here, if you happen to press this twice, now by the way, there is a lockout function on this which stops that from all of that. You just pull the light button down for 3 seconds and it'll stop that. But if by accident you did come onto the compass mode, it just puts it on, it just says compass. It's not actually gone into the compass mode. You have to then press start, which will then put the compass mode on for you. So I think this is another clever little way that they've updated the UI, so that, because they've recognised that the compass often drains your battery a little bit more than some of the other modes. So when you're on here, you can press the button down at the bottom. With it, so you've got your altimeter, you've also got your barometer, and then you've also got your temperature on here as well. The top face on here shows what your time is, but then you've also got a lock direction, which I think is quite nice as well. So if I'm out in the woods here, I come to a clearing, and right, okay, I'm taking my bearings and I'm going geographically off. Right, there's a farmhouse over there. I lock onto that, and then you can press this and it will lock that bearing. So now when you turn this round, you can see it'll say left a bit, it'll say right a bit, or it'll say spot on, and then you can carry on that bearing. In the options, you have the ability to be able to change whether you're going off true north or whether you're going off magnetic north, and you can change those as well, which is a nice little feature. But yeah, so that's on there as well. And then you also, so there is another one on here as well, which is kind of if you're out and about. So if you're out and you want to track your walk, then you can start your track. It will track on your meters of descent. It'll track how long you've been walking, that sort of stuff. But again, it's not connected to any sort of GPS, so it's not going to be able to track anything or where you are. But through the app as well, you can also connect it to the app. You can connect routes in there, so as you're going through these routes with your watch, then it will help with that as well. Now I suppose this might be a useful point to talk about the app. Yeah, not a fan whatsoever. So when I first had this, I connected it to the app so that I could do an update, and it did a firmware update on this. One of the downsides of the original Core is that they made this watch, everything was baked into it, it was sent out, and there was no OTA sort of updates. It wasn't connected to anything. With the Core 2, this now has Bluetooth. Generally with Bluetooth watches, I just don't use it because it saps the battery. What you can do is you can set this so it might only check once a day, all the kind of regular things, so that it will make the battery last a little bit longer. So I connected to the app. It did an over-the-air update. I don't know what it updated, but it probably just some tiny bug fixes, that sort of stuff. I then thought, well, I'm not really going to use this app, so I took it off my phone, but then realised, no, for this content, I do need to test the app to get the most out of it. I installed the app, then I tried to reconnect this to the app. It just wouldn't reconnect, absolutely would not reconnect. I had to reset the watch twice, in fact. I had to reset the settings on my phone. I'm not going to do a whole complete reset on my phone because I'm not prepared to do that. So eventually I managed to get the app to connect to this, but then on the app you get two options. You can either log in through Facebook or you can log in through your email. I'm like, well, this is a pain, I'm going to do it through Facebook. And it goes through this whole process of connecting it to Facebook. Long story short, I just can't get into the app. Even just by doing it with Facebook, I can't get into the app. It goes on this really weird cycle where it goes into Facebook, it then goes into Facebook. Do I give permission to do this? Yes, I give permission. And then it just keeps going in that cycle. I'm absolutely losing all faith with this and the app, because the app is just a pain in the arse. Now, from what I've seen with some forums, I'm not the only person that struggles with the app. Whether it's connection to the actual device, which a lot of people are struggling with, or whether it's getting into the app, I don't think it's good. I just don't simply think that it's good. Now, on the twice over the last 3 weeks that I've been into the app, you can go in there and you can check your steps that you've done through the day. You can also make sure that your time on here is as close to what it should be as possible. But I generally do think that the juice isn't worth the squeeze. And I say this, I'm not some boomer that struggles with technology. I've worked with technology for a long time now. Yeah, it just isn't that. But it's just a pain. Now, some of the extra options on here, so when you get through all of those modes, you eventually get to the end where you then get almost what you assume is into the settings, but it's not the settings. This is where you've got extra features. So in here you've got your countdown, you've got a stopwatch, you've got an alarm which you can set, and then you've got the settings as part of there. I do like the fact that in the settings you now have the ability to choose between either a red light or a green backlight. I will say that the green backlight, when you turn that on at night, it's so easy to be able to see what time it is. The red light, I don't know if it's because I'm getting a bit old and I probably need reading glasses now, but the red light is a little bit harder to be able to read. Now, I guess from a military standpoint, that's better, because if you accidentally turn the light on with the red light, it's going to be harder for somebody to spot where you are than with the green light, which really does kind of, I mean, it doesn't light up the room. It's not like Casio G-Shock kind of light, but the green light is a whole lot easier to be able to read. Now, all in all, you might be wondering, especially, I seem to have took quite a negative tone with this watch, and what I've found generally is, I'm just kind of mixed. The Core was an excellent watch that had some downsides, but generally the positives outweighed the negatives with the original Core. Now, what they've done with the Core 2 is, I feel like they've addressed some of the negatives from the original Core, but then they've added new negatives to this one. It almost feels as though they've took 2 steps forward to make the Core 2 the superior choice out of the two, whilst equally taking 2 steps back to kind of make new issues that the original Core didn't have. I'm generally kind of torn on this. Now, if you're wondering, so you've got the Core and you're wondering, should you update to the Core 2? If the strap really annoyed you on here, definitely do it. If the reading angles on this one really annoyed you and this one is ever so slightly better, then yeah, you should probably do it. If you didn't have the stealth version of the Core, which was one of the versions that had the red light, then yeah, you should definitely update to this one because it's got the red light or it's got the green light. You know, you can swap between the two. If the battery length was an issue, because with this one, then you know you only got 12 months, but you want a little bit more, then yeah, you should upgrade to this one. If you were concerned that this didn't have any connectivity as far as Bluetooth, so you could check stuff, was concerned, you kind of should do, but the app for this, for me, it just didn't work. I can't understand why it doesn't work. I understand that there's probably people that have no issues with it whatsoever, but I did, and I just can't get it to work. So I don't know. And looking on forums, there also seems to be a lot of other people out there that had similar either connectivity issues between the app and the watch, or just being able to get into the actual app as well. They've had similar struggles. So a lot of flies are on me today. If it is that you wanted better water swimming with this, 30 meters down to 100 meters, then yeah, you should probably upgrade to this. If you wanted something that was a huge step from one up to the other, I just don't think that this is, if this is the Core 1 and this is the Core 2, this feels more like the Core 1.5. If you like the fact that you can change the batteries with ease on here, don't get this. This isn't going to be useful for you. Just stick with this one. I suppose when I go through it like that, it does come across as a worthy upgrade. Apologies, we do seem to have a lot of helicopters flying over today. It does seem like a worthy upgrade. What I get is that they invented this watch 20 years ago, and there was a feature list in there that maybe they weren't able to do back 20 years ago. This seems to be the watch that they wanted to make 20 years ago that they're now making today. But what I kind of get stuck on is the fact that there are Casio G-Shocks out there that do everything that this does and more. 200 meters worth of swimming down. It's exactly the same mechanism to take the back off. They're all screw down. You get a little bit more features on there. Yeah, okay. Some of the ProTrek ones you can do the same with the watch. You can swap those out. You've got the compass on there. I don't know. I'm kind of stuck. And hopefully you from this you can get not necessarily the frustration, but just kind of just trying to be able to talk. I'm struggling to try and find the words of how to put this. That sounded like I was getting emotional then. I just got a bit of spit in my throat. It's just slightly frustrating that this isn't the watch that I wanted it to be. Now, would I recommend getting this? If you've never had the original Core, yeah, just get it. It's better, but it's only slightly better. If you already have the Core and you're happy with it, stick with the Core. I think this is a great watch. It has its limitations. It's still a good outdoors watch. This is still a good outdoors watch. I don't know if it's a worthy upgrade from the Core to this. It's still a good watch though. I feel like it feels like a negative piece of content, and I don't want it to come across as a negative piece of content, even though it does come across heavily as a negative piece of content, because if I go through all of the updates, they do seem to be like reasonable updates-ish. Anyway, I feel this is such a strange end to it. I hope you can see from this that kind of that weirdness. That again, I don't think frustration's the wrong word. Maybe I'll just bring it to an end here. People are going to think Randy's kind of lost it with this one. Anyway, I hope that helps. I hope it does help, because I was struggling a little bit towards the end to just kind of get my words out. But yes, now this was not sent to me free of charge. I purchased this with my own money. I probably will never be able to get to work with Suunto off the back of this. I'll leave some links below so where you can pick one of these up. These seem readily available here in Europe. You can pick them up from Amazon, you can pick them up from Suunto themselves. I have had a few people that have mentioned that they can't find these in the US. I don't know if they're region locked at the moment. Maybe they'll become available soon in the US. I'd love to hear your thoughts as well. Have you picked one of these up? I know a lot of people watch my content that have already got one. A friend of the channel, he bought his, sent it back within 24 hours. He just wasn't happy with it. He preferred to stay with his original one. Have you been considering this and maybe a Casio G-Shock instead? And which one have you gone to? I'd love to hear that conversation as well. So I'll leave those links below. I'll leave some of my social media links below here on Moorlander EDC and my sister channel, Moorlander Tactical, where I look at more kind of tactical stuff. And whether you're watching this on YouTube or Rumble, as always, stay safe, stay Moorlander, and stay EDC. I do feel like I need to add an extra note. It just baffles me, some of the decisions that they've made. I understand why they've made some of the decisions that they've made, but I feel it goes against the original ethos of what the watch was about, kind of thing. They talk long and hard about the mil standard stuff that they've done, where they tested 8 different military standards, but then the fact that they didn't have the toolless removal of the thing on the back. Maybe I'm just concentrating on that a little bit too much. But yeah, anyway, I'm not sure what date. In fact, I'll tell you what. Let's put this out tomorrow. Let's put this out on Sunday. I hope you're good. I hope you're having an awesome weekend. And let's say a huge thank you to the channel members.